Alright, what's up? In this video, I'm going to teach you how to actually start calisthenics. Now, calisthenics can be pretty intimidating in the beginning for a lot of people, mainly because there's questions like how many reps should I do, how many sets should I do, what exercises should I do, how many exercises should I do, and should I have a different approach to calisthenics as compared to lifting weights. I'm gonna answer all those questions in this video. So the first thing that we need to talk about is your workout split. Now I recommend following push-pull legs because it allows you to train each muscle twice a week, which is the best for strength and hypertrophy. Now your weekly routine could look something like this or something like this. You can also switch it up and make it legs push-pull or pull-push legs. You can mix it up however you like. In this video, I'm mainly going to be covering pull and push because that's mainly the area where people have the most problems with, and that's pretty much the meat of calisthenics. If you want to train legs, I recommend just training it in the gym with weights. Let's start off with push. For push, we need one exercise for our chest, one for our triceps, and one for our shoulder. Now yes, most calisthenics exercises are actually compound movements, meaning they target multiple muscle groups. So even if you do a chest focus push-up variation like the regular push-up, for example, it will still target your chest, not only your chest but also your shoulders and your triceps. So that's why you don't need to do a bunch of exercises for each muscle group. 3 is actually more than enough, especially if you are a beginner. Now for chest, I'd recommend doing regular push-ups. People really underestimate the chest activation that you get in regular push-ups. So the regular push-up actually hits all parts of your chest relatively well. And I know some people might say, oh, what about the upper chest or the lower chest? Well, first of all, you're a beginner, so you don't really need to overcomplicate things that much. And secondly, the regular push-up hits all parts of the chest pretty evenly. Second of all, the regular push-up targets the entire chest fairly well, so you really don't need to worry about doing a million different exercises for all the different parts of the chest. Now if regular push-ups are too hard for you, I'd recommend doing them on your knees or doing them on an inclined surface and gradually decrease the incline over time. Now if they're too easy for you, I'd recommend doing a different variation like archer push-ups or push-ups on the rings, or I'd recommend adding weight. Now both of these techniques have their own pros and cons. By changing the variation, you actually have to learn the technique of the new variation, and by adding weight, you can't actually add a ton of weight on your back in the form of a weighted vest or a backpack, mainly because it could make the movement of your scapula a bit harder. Now if you want to take this a step further, instead of doing just either weighted push-ups or a different variation, you can actually combine the both and do a weighted version of a different variation. So instead of doing only archer push-ups, you can do weighted archer push-ups. Now a lot of people also say that wide push-ups are great for your chest activation, and yes, they might actually give you a decent chest activation, but over time they could develop overuse injuries for your shoulder. So make sure you're doing them safely if you want to, and make sure you're not placing your hands this wide. Another great chest exercise is actually the typewriter push-up. Now this one is actually pretty unknown, and it's also a bit advanced as well, so if it's too hard for you on your feet, you can do them on your knees. But trust me, you get a really good chest contraction with these because there's constant tension on your chest in the lower position. Now moving to triceps, we actually have a couple of options here. The first one is overhead tricep extensions, and this one is actually probably the best option here because it hits the long head of your triceps, which is often neglected in calisthenics. And besides, the medial head of your triceps is hit pretty frequently in regular push-ups, so you don't really need to worry about it too much. You can do overhead tricep extensions on the rings, and the lower the rings are, the harder it will be. And you can also do this exercise on a low bar if you have one. The next one is the Sphinx push-up. Not a huge fan of this one, but it still does hit your triceps pretty well, and you can also progressively overload it pretty easily as well. The last one is pretty iconic, and it's the diamond push-up. This one hits your inner chest and the entire triceps area pretty well, and yeah, it's just an iconic calisthenics move. Again, if it's too hard, just do it on your knees, and if it's too easy, you can add weight to these exercises. Now for shoulders, we have pike push-ups. Now, a big mistake that people make with pike push-ups is that they don't bring their head in front of their wrists, and this is really important if you want to feel it in your shoulders. You can make pike push-ups harder by decreasing the distance between your wrists and your feet, and you can make them easier by doing the opposite. Now, you do actually need a decent amount of hamstring mobility to do this exercise, so I'd recommend just stretching out your hamstrings a bit to make this exercise easier. Another way you can make pike push-ups harder is by doing them on an elevated surface, or you can just add weight to yourself with a weight vest, or you can just do back to wall handstand push-ups or chest to wall handstand push-ups. But those are pretty advanced movements. And the pike push-up is also fairly advanced, so I'd recommend adding it to the start of your workout. Now, just because when I say you should do 6 to 10 reps, doesn't mean you should do just 8 reps, and those 8 reps are really easy. That way you won't build any strength or muscle. I would recommend stopping 1 to 2 reps shy of failure in each set. And if you don't know what failure means, it pretty much means going all out in that set, doing as many reps as you possibly can before your body gives out. So leaving 2 reps in the tank would mean you just stop 2 reps before your body completely gives out. Now, as a beginner, going to failure on each set is not that important. You just have to learn to push yourself hard. Now, if you're intermediate, you still don't have to go to failure on each set, especially because these are compound exercises. On isolation exercises, for example, the overhead tricep extension, you can go to failure on each set, even if you're a beginner. But for the compound exercises, I would recommend going close to failure on the first 2 sets, so leaving 1 to 2 reps in the tank, and then going to failure in the last set, so doing as many reps as you can. So I would recommend picking an intensity of an exercise which you can do no more than 10 to 12 reps of. So for example, if you're doing pike push-ups and you can do 15 pike push-ups to failure, so that's your max amount of reps, I'd actually recommend making the pike push-ups a bit harder. So you can do no more than 12 reps at any given time. When you actually do pike push-ups in your workout, you can do around 10 to 11 reps, and that will still be a pretty high intensity for you. Now for push, once you get enough strength with these basic exercises, I would actually recommend moving over to dips. Dips is actually a great chest builder, and it also targets your shoulders and your triceps pretty well as well. And once you get strong enough in basic body weight dips, I would highly recommend going for weighted dips. That will really skyrocket your strength and your muscle over time if you're able to get to a high level with weighted dips. So this is pretty much what the push routine looks like. Take a screenshot if you want to. Now, as for the rest periods between each set, you can rest between 3 to 5 minutes because these are compound movements, so you will need more rest. You can't just rest 30 to 60 seconds for a compound movement. Now, if 3 to 5 minutes feels too much rest, then just rest 2 to 3 minutes at least. Just remember to not rest too much or too little between each set. Now, if you rest for too long, your body actually starts to cool down. In the beginning of a workout, we warm up to increase the blood flow. So we don't want to cool down and reduce the blood flow in the middle of our workout. That'll just make everything worse. So try not to rest less than 2 minutes and more than 5 minutes. Now for pull, we need one exercise that will target our back width. So it'll target our lats mainly. One exercise for back thickness. So it'll mainly target the rear delts, the rhomboids, the traps, etc. And we also need 1 to 2 exercises for our arms, which are the biceps and maybe if the forearms as well if you want to train them. Now the best body weight exercise for your back is the regular pull-up. Now if you do the regular pull-up with more of a rounded back, you will hit your lats more. And if you do it with more of an arched back, you will hit the mid-back muscles a bit more. But overall, your back is going to be the main emphasis. And if you're a beginner and you feel your pull-ups mostly in your arms, don't worry about it too much. Your back is still being worked, even though you feel it mostly in your arms. And over time, you'll be able to develop a better mind-muscle connection with your back. Now, a lot of people also talk about wide grip pull-ups to target your back a bit more. But in my opinion, wide grip pull-ups just causes more problems than they can solve. They really just hurt your shoulders a lot in the long run, and it could even cause an overuse injury, which is something that we just do not want. People really underestimate the back activation that you get with the regular pull-ups. With enough practice over time, you'll actually start to feel your back a lot more in pull-ups, and you can build some serious muscle and strength. Now, for making pull-ups harder, the best way is absolutely to just add weight to yourself, either using a weight vest, a weight belt, or just a simple backpack. I wouldn't recommend changing the variation because there's not a lot of vertical pulling variations out there that are really worth doing. Pull-ups, standard pull-ups are just the best. Back thickness, I would 100% recommend doing body weight rows, ideally on the gymnastic rings, but if you don't have those, you can do it on low bar as well. The advantage on gymnastics rings is that you can actually adjust the incline. The lower your incline is, so the closer your upper body is to the ground, the harder it will be. You can also change up the variation by doing either archer rows or one arm rows, or you can just add weight to yourself. Now, another great exercise for back thickness is tucked front lever pull-ups. Now, these do look a bit challenging, but they are actually fairly easy. So if you're intermediate, I would highly recommend doing these. Now, yes, they do target your rear delts a lot more, but in my opinion, they are great for building strength, and I would highly recommend doing them on the gymnastics rings. But if you don't have those, you can do it between two parallel bars as well. Now, for everybody's favorite, the biceps. And for biceps, I would recommend doing close grip chin-ups. Now, the reason why it's close grip is because they'll target your arms a lot more. And I would also recommend doing close grip chin-ups. I would recommend doing close grip chin-ups with more of a protracted back posture, so curve in a bit more, so it places more emphasis on your biceps. Doing it with an arched back posture where you're trying to touch the bar with your chest will just target your back a lot more. And again, if you want to make this variation harder, you can just add weight to yourself. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can also do bicep curls on the gymnastics rings. And to make it harder, you can also do one arm curls as well. The same thing applies here as well. The lower your body is to the ground, the harder it will be. Now, if you want to target your forearms a bit more, you can do neutral grip pull-ups or close grip pronated pull-ups. That will definitely target your forearms a lot more, and your brachialis as well. But if you don't want to do those, you can also do dead hangs or weighted dead hangs or even one arm hangs, depending on your level of advancement. Now, I would actually recommend doing dead hangs here because as a beginner, doing dead hangs will actually improve your pull-ups a lot more. So yeah, this is pretty much how the pull routine looks like. If you can't do pull-ups or chin-ups yet, I would recommend just sticking to the gymnastics rings and doing rows and increasing the intensity there, and also doing pull-up negatives. Now, if you can't do pull-ups or chin-ups yet, obviously keep working on them on the side by doing negatives and using resistance bands. But as for your main exercise, I would recommend doing body weight rows on the gymnastics rings and slowly lowering your body over time until it's almost close to the ground. That will definitely develop a lot of strength in your back. And I would also recommend sticking to the bodyweight bicep curls as a substitute for chin-ups. Now, the most important thing I want you to take away from in this video is progressive overload. Progressive overload is extremely important if you want to get good at anything, including building strength and muscle. Don't just do the same exercise with the same variation and intensity or the same weight for weeks on end. You won't get better that way. You need to keep progressively overloading. Once you're able to go beyond 12 reps in a given exercise in a set, then make it harder by either adding weight, changing the variation, or doing any of the other things that I mentioned in this video. Now, let's say your rep goal for weighted push-ups was 10 reps with a particular weight. Once you hit 10 reps, add enough weight to the point where the amount of reps you can do is reduced by 3 to 4 max. So let's say you could do weighted push-ups with 5 kilograms for 10 reps maximum. Add enough weight that will allow you to do 6 to 7 reps maximum, and then build up those 6 to 7 reps to 9 to 10 reps, and then increase the weight again, and then keep doing this over and over again, and over time you will have built a lot of strength. Now, if you're a beginner, you don't need to have picture perfect form. In the beginning, just focus on pushing yourself hard and not having a form that's so bad that you'll get injured. Now, if your main goal is hypertrophy, try to control the reps on the way down as slow as you can, and also make sure to track your reps and your sets and your progression in a logbook or in your phone, regardless of whether you're training for hypertrophy or strength. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Subscribe if you found value, and yeah, see you next time.